Great. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to Getting Ready to Enter the World of Social Media. We apologize for starting a few minutes late, but we are here now. And so I'll start off just by briefly introducing myself. Next slide. There you go. All right, so my name is Leyanis Diaz, and I am a bilingual business consultant and in-house marketing specialist at Temple Small Business Development Center, supporting small business owners in both English and Spanish. My background is in communications, and so I have worked with individuals, small businesses, corporations, and universities in planning and implementing their marketing plans, strategies, and tactics for over 10 years. And I have also been running my own marketing and consulting firm for minority-owned businesses for over 3 years now. Next slide. So for those of you that are new to the Small Business Development Center, or for those of you who have never heard of us, Temple University Small Business Development Center was founded in 1983. Our service territories include Philadelphia, Lower Montgomery, and Lower Bucks counties. We are funded at the federal level by the Small Business Administration. At the regional and state level, we're funded by the Department of Community and Economic Development. And at the local level, we partner and are funded by Temple University and the Fox School of Business. So we are a part of a network of 17 centers across Pennsylvania. And so the mission of that network in Pennsylvania is to provide entrepreneurs and small business owners with the knowledge that they need to make smart decisions and to prosper. Next slide. But the mission of our center is helping small businesses grow and succeed. And so we believe in the power of small businesses to create jobs and to also build communities. And we join about 1,000 small business development centers across the country that are all supported by government funding. And this funding allows us to offer free and low-cost services to all of our clients and to those who aren't clients of ours as well. Continue. All right, so how can we help? We get this question a lot, and so we decided that it would be best to have a slide on this. And so in terms of the services that we offer, our center can be broken into two different sectors or two different verticals. We offer education and we also offer consulting. On the education side, we offer training programs such as our construction management certificate. We also offer events like the one that you're attending today. We have an incubator where we offer clients a co-working space and also special programming. And then on the consulting side, we have one-on-one consulting, group consulting, and then clients can also access our procurement specialist, our technology and commercialization specialist. You also can talk to someone about preparing for a loan or a grant. We can help with lender matching, and we also have a legal clinic. So for those of you that may have legal issues, or who just want to get a better understanding of your business from a legal perspective, our legal clinic can help. And we also offer low-cost creative services through our creative team who can help you with branding as well. Next slide. All right, so on to what brings us here today, getting ready to enter the world of social media. On today's agenda, I'll start off by giving a brief introduction to social media and its benefits. We'll go over some of the most popular social media platforms. Then I'll talk a little bit about how to actually use social media for business. I'll go into answering some of the frequently asked questions that I receive as a marketer and as a business consultant about social media. We'll talk a little bit about next steps, and then we'll open up for questions. So we'll have about 30 minutes or so to answer any questions that you might have in terms of social media and preparing to launch your profiles. Next slide. All right, so introduction to social media and its benefits. And so I want to try something. And so at the bottom of your screen, you should see like a raise hand icon, which allows you to put your hand up virtually. And so I do want to ask a few questions before I dive a little deeper into this section. So for those of you that can find that icon, just a show of hands, how many of you are new to social media, meaning you have no profiles whatsoever? Okay, you guys are finding the icon. That's great. All right, so I'm seeing a few hands up. So some of you are very new to social media, which is good to know. Um, all right, so either keep your hand up or put your hand down if this next question doesn't apply to you. How many of you are currently using social media but for personal reasons? All right. So a lot of you are using social media, but for personal reasons. Got it. All right. Keep your hand up or put it down. Same thing as last time. The last question is, how many of you are using social media for your business, but have no idea what you're doing? All right, so I'm seeing a lot more hands up for that one. Great, which means that you are in the right place. I'm really hoping that this will be an introduction to social media for all of you. I'm trying to keep it as foundational as possible. And, for anything that I may not answer during the actual presentation, feel free to ask me, whatever questions you have. There is no dumb question. There is no, stupid question. So feel free to ask whatever questions you have during the question and answer period if I don't already get to them during the presentation. So thank you for all of you that participated. All right, so what is social media? Social media is a computer-based technology that facilitates the sharing of ideas, thoughts, and information through the building of virtual networks and communities. By design, social media is internet-based and gives users quick electronic communication of content. Content includes personal information, documents, videos, and photos. Social media allows users to engage via computer, tablet, or smartphone on web-based software or web applications, and often you'll be utilizing these social media platforms for messaging. That's usually like the number one, one of the main uses of social media. Next slide. Right, so social media, for those of you that don't know, it originated as a way to interact with friends and family, but was later adopted by businesses which wanted to take advantage of a popular new communication method to reach out to customers. So the power of social media is the ability to connect and share information with anyone on earth or with many people simultaneously. So you can, reach out to someone on the other side of the world, or you can reach out to a lot of people on the other side of the world. That's the power of social media. And just so that you know, globally, there are more than 3 billion social media users. So for those of you that are already using social media, you're being counted in that number. But also keep in mind that social media is ever changing and ever evolving. You can take a social media and marketing course today, and by next year, a lot of what you learned, might have changed or might have been altered in some way, or might have been updated, or once the algorithms change, kind of messes with your strategy a little bit. So just keep in mind that if you are interested in learning more about social media, you're doing the right thing by participating in these workshops. But I would encourage you to continue participating in workshops such as this one, not just with us, but with other partners, with other organizations, because you constantly, in order to stay up to date on social media and on all of the things that are happening within this world, you have to constantly be learning. Another thing that I want to mention is that social media users tend to be younger. So nearly 90% of people between the ages of 18 and 29 have used at least one form of social media. And also these users tend to be better educated and also relatively wealthy, meaning that they're earning over $75,000 per year. So just keep that in mind. Next slide. All right, so some of the benefits of social media, there are several advantages to using social media for business, which increase. So as social media becomes more enmeshed in our society, these are some of the benefits that you can look forward to when using social media for your business. So first and foremost, brand awareness. Billions of people across the world are using social media every day, and it makes sense to put your business where the customers are. Roughly 60% of Instagram users said that they find new products using the platform. So, it definitely makes it worth your while to be on social media. Excuse me. The next benefit is brand personality. Social media is becoming more important than ever for businesses so that they can have a distinct voice and engage with customers on a human level. Social media provides an easy avenue for this, allowing you to develop an identity and a voice to showcase your brand values and engage with followers. And we'll be talking a little bit about this during the social media frequently asked questions. It's one of the recommendations that I give. The next benefit is thought leadership. Social media provides you with an opportunity to both learn from and stand out from your competitors, establishing yourself as an industry leader through engaging and relevant content. You can become a thought leader by sharing creative content on Instagram or on other social media platforms, such as writing thoughtful blog posts for LinkedIn, or showing a fresh perspective in tweets. The next benefit is an increased website traffic. So if your followers like your social media content, they become interested in you and go to your website to learn more about your business, which means higher website traffic and potentially more sales for you. And so, I think that the increased website traffic is important to note because, oftentimes I get the question of, or, I'll have a client say, well, I want to launch my social media, or I want to figure out like how to sell through social media or whatever else. The answer that I usually give them, or the recommendation or the insight that I provide, is that social media really acts as like a brand awareness tool. And if you kind of think about your sales funnel, it's at the top of the funnel. It takes over that awareness portion of the funnel, meaning that you want to be on social media so that people can find you, so that they're aware of your business. But most of your sales aren't necessarily going to be coming from social media. They're going to be coming from wherever you're sending them to next, right? So if you have a website, once potential customers and consumers are doing their research and finding out about you on social media, they then go to your website, learn a little more, and eventually purchase from you through your website. The next benefit is reputation management. So, as you know, reputation is everything, and social media gives you the perfect opportunity to communicate with customers and solve issues quickly. You can even create a special hashtag for your followers that they can use if they have a question or complaint to ensure that it's seen by the right people on your team. But you can also use social media to highlight positive reviews or comments. And I've seen that done quite often by small businesses, especially. So if you get, a raving review, you might create a nice little blog post, or sorry, a nice little graphic, with that person's picture and their quote. And then you'll post about it on social media or on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever else. Another benefit of social media is the ability to get access to analytics and insights, right? So most social media platforms have their own analytics tools, which allow you to monitor things like your follower count, engagement rates, and click-through rates. These numbers can help you figure out what kinds of content your followers respond to best, and allows you to tweak your marketing strategy accordingly. The next benefit is competitor analysis. So social media isn't just good for engaging with your customers. You can also use it to stay on top of what your competitors are doing. And that's actually one of the biggest recommendations that I tend to give clients. You should stay on top of what your competitors are doing, sign up for their newsletter, set up Google alerts for your competitors, search the names of your competitors on Google to see, if they've been featured in any articles or if they've released any blog posts. Follow them on social media. Following your competitors and taking note of what they're doing, you really want to use your competitors as almost like your research and development department within your business. And so, if you're following them, and if you're staying on top of what they're doing, you'll see, what's working well for them and what isn't working well for them. And you'll see, whatever events they have coming up, whatever new releases or whatever products they may be offering. at the current moment. And so you want to make sure that you're working those insights into your social media marketing strategy as well. And then lastly, the last benefit is targeted advertisements. So through social media, it's very easy for you to create ads on these social platforms. And the benefit is that you can target those ads specifically to suit your audience, right? You can get very detailed, you can get very targeted and reach exactly, who you're looking for online. And research has also shown that users respond better when ads are tailored to them, because this often will increase their engagement with that ad, and there's a higher likelihood of them, actually proceeding or moving forward with whatever the call to action is for that ad. Next slide. All right, so now I'm going to be giving you a overview of social media platforms. But before I move on, I'm wondering if anyone has any questions, because I've thrown a lot of information at you already. And so if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. You don't have to wait until the end. I'm more than happy and more than comfortable with answering questions throughout as well. So feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat. I'm not seeing any questions as of right now. I'm just seeing a lot of thanks. And in response, I just want to say you're welcome. All right, do you have to ask permission? Okay, so I do see a question. So do you have to ask permission to make a graphic of their photo and comment? All right, so I'm guessing that you mean that if you wanted to use a like a picture of someone, or if you wanted to use like a stock photo, for instance, do you need to ask permission for those things? And the answer is, it depends, but as a best practice, you want to either be asking for permission, or at the very least, be giving credit to whoever the photographer is or whoever the content creator is. And so let's say that you go to a stock photo website and you want to use a picture of a small business owner, which I've definitely done in the past. And so in that scenario, if you're using that picture maybe on your website, usually what I do is that I will put like the credit to whoever, created that image or whoever took that photo on my website. I also will give credit to the photographer or the content creator on my social media platforms as well. If you wanted to like reshare someone's post on social media, oftentimes you don't have to ask for, permission for that. But, if you're using someone's, so if you're just, let's say that one of your customers shared something about one of your products or services and says, X, Y, and Z business is amazing. I love them. I go to them every Monday, to get my cup of coffee. You can reshare that and you don't have to ask for permission. But if you wanted to use that picture in, your marketing materials or on your website, meaning that you're using that picture for commercial purposes, oftentimes you'll want to ask for permission because you're looking to make money off of that picture. So I hope, that answers your question. We can talk a little bit more about that later on if I didn't answer your question. And then I'm seeing some questions within the question and answer as well. So can you use images of public figures such as celebrities? The answer is yes, but it also depends on what you're using it for. So if you're using it like on a meme or something, that's all fine. Again, if you're going to be using it for commercial purposes, you're going to want to get permission. Oftentimes, like the best quality images of celebrities or public figures, you have to pay for. And so if it's someone like, I don't know, like the mayor of, your city or like the governor of your state, you could reach out to their press office, their press secretary, and see if you can get permission to use their name and likeness within your advertising. Celebrities, it's a little harder to get a hold of them. And so, if you have the option of purchasing that image, I would go ahead and do that. If not, then I would try to take, your own pictures of the celebrity and make sure that you can use it for commercial purposes. All right, so what if you're physically located in Philadelphia, but incorporated in Wyoming, Nevada, or Delaware? Do we work with the SBA where we physically are, or where we are incorporated? The answer is that you'll want to work with you have a choice really. I'll give you an example. We have a lot of clients who, we have a lot of clients who are registered in Delaware, for instance, but who live in Philadelphia and within our region, and so they work with us. But they also have the option of working with Delaware as well. So as long as you're located in that region, you can definitely reach out to the Small Business Development Center within that region because you're living there, and it'll just once we're able to meet with people in person again, it'll make it that much easier for you to potentially meet with them in person. And that's really the reason why we are now mostly meeting with clients virtually, but in the past we were meeting with them in person, and so that's why it's so important for you to be located there so that we could see you in person. All right, will anything in this particular webinar cover how-tos of building a social media site? I don't have any social media accounts whatsoever and could benefit from that knowledge. Yes and no. There are some insights that you'll gain on creating your social media profiles, but this is also something that we could potentially discuss within the question and answer period if you have specific questions. So yeah, hope I answered all of your questions. We are going to move on. All right, so an overview of social media platforms is where we're at right now. And so as you can see, and you're probably looking at this image and thinking, wow, there's a lot of different social media platforms out there. And so, as a business owner, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, right, by all of the different technologies, all of the things that you have to stay on top of. I get a lot of clients that I work with that are like, well, I know what social media is. I'm using it for personal reasons, but I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to using social media for business purposes. And so I have a lot of clients who are overwhelmed and usually just want to work with someone to kind of help them feel a little less stressed, but also to kind of understand what platforms they should actually be on, because you don't necessarily need to be on all of the platforms that are on the screen. You're going to want to pick the ones that make the most sense for you, and I'll be talking a little bit about that during the social media FAQs. But during this overview, I'll be talking a little bit about some of the more popular social media platforms. If for any reason you have any questions about any platforms that I don't talk about next, you can feel free to ask about that during the question and answer period as well. Next slide. All right, so first up is Facebook. Facebook is a highly popular social media network with a varied audience. Facebook has over 2.7 billion active monthly users as of 2020. And as such, every business should have a Facebook page. When used correctly, a Facebook page can be invaluable to a small business such as yourself. And so you can use Facebook to share everything from photos to important company updates. With a business account, you also have access to powerful advertising tools and in-depth analytics. Business pages also have a lot of customization options as well. So you can use your Facebook business page to highlight important information such as your contact information for the business, your hours of operation, and the products and services that you offer. Next slide. All right, so for those of you who do use Facebook, you are probably a part of the 74% of users who say that they are using or logging into Facebook several times a day. And so, about 74% of Facebook users are logging in at least once a day. In terms of daily usage, this number is way higher than Instagram and Snapchat's own daily users. Next slide. All right, so a lot of information on the slide, but I tried to make it as visual as possible. And so after 15 years of operation, Facebook is still one of the most used social media platforms in the US. Facebook ranks second in platform usage after YouTube, actually. And according to Pew Research, 69% of US adults are using Facebook. So, a lot of the adults in the US are using Facebook, except for those who are age 65 and older. The majority of Americans in different age groups use Facebook. However, it's important to note that usage among teens has dropped in favor of YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. The platform also tends to lean more towards women than men, with 75% of women using the platform and only 63% of men using the platform. And as you can see, in terms of audience sizes based on countries, India has the most amount of users, and then is the US. And then you can see some of the other countries with the highest usage. But yeah, you'll be getting a copy of this deck, of this presentation. And so, this data is important to know. And the reason why I'm bringing up this data is because, when you're deciding what platforms you want to be on, you have to have a better understanding of who's actually using those platforms, and whether it makes sense for you to be on that platform because your customers are currently on that platform. And so if you are looking to target or reach mostly women between the ages of 30 to 49, then Facebook would be great for you. If you're looking to reach mostly consumers who are in urban areas or who are living in urban locations, Facebook would be great for you. And then if you're also looking to reach, people who either have some college education or who have graduated from college, Facebook would also be great for you as well. So just keep that in mind. This is why I'm sharing this data and these statistics. It's so that you are aware of who's on these platforms, so that you can make more educated decisions on whether or not you should be on these platforms. Next slide. All right, so next up is Instagram. Instagram is also incredibly popular. With around 1 billion active users as of 2020. From Instagram Live to Instagram Stories, there is no shortage of tools that businesses can use to promote their services and products on Instagram. Instagram is primarily a visual platform, and it's based entirely on photos and video posts. So it's best for businesses who have strong visual content to share. It's important to note that this platform is also almost entirely mobile. So you can't just take photos or create new posts on the desktop version. Although some social media management tools like Hootsuite and Buffer do allow you to post on Instagram directly from their desktop platforms. You can't just go on Instagram.com from your laptop or your desktop and upload something there, which can be annoying for some of us who are more comfortable using our laptops or our desktops instead of our phones. Another thing that I want to mention is that more artistic niches tend to excel on Instagram, and so it doesn't work for everyone. It really depends on your industry. But regardless of who is running your account, whether it's you or an intern or someone else, you want to make sure that that person has a good eye for detail and at least basic photography skills, so that they can ensure that the photos and videos that are being posted to your account are high quality. And I'm sure that, as you're scrolling through Instagram, you can see all of the high quality content that's being shared throughout that platform, and it's something that people are more receptive to, or that they appeal more to, is visual content. Next slide. All right, so while Instagram continues to go back, sorry, you're going forward. Yeah, that one. All right, so while Instagram continues to rise in popularity, its daily login is second to Facebook. 63% of Instagram users log in at least daily, while 74% of Facebook users log in at least daily. And these two patterns have actually remained unchanged for the most part since 2018. What do I want to share on this slide? So again, just some general demographics and data. So 35% of US teens rate Instagram as their favorite social network, second only to Snapchat in terms of gender. 43% of women use Instagram, while 31% of men use it. In terms of age, 75% of 18 to 24-year-olds are using Instagram, meaning that, Instagram is kind of catering to a younger crowd. In terms of the location, mostly people who live in urban spaces are using, or urban locations are using Instagram. Um, those who are relatively wealthy find themselves on Instagram most often, and then those who at least have a college education are also mostly on Instagram. And as you can see, in terms of country breakdown, the United States is where most of Instagram users are currently located. Next slide. All right, on to Twitter. So with a total of 330 million global monthly users, 262 million are actually outside of the US. For those of you that don't know, Twitter is most often used for breaking news from around the world. Twitter is also great for short updates, engaging with followers, and sharing links to blog posts. But it's, again, it's not for every business. On Twitter, you can share short tweets. And when I say short, I mean, updates or tweets that are 240 characters or less. You can also share videos, images, links, polls, and more. It's also easy to interact with your audience on this platform by mentioning users in your post, along with liking and retweeting tweets. So, you are able to reshare what other people have said. You can also like other people's posts. And again, for most Twitter users, they're using it for breaking news, to have a better understanding of what's happening around the world. So if you are a highly visual business, or if you don't have a strong brand voice, you may want to skip this social media network altogether. However, there are some companies that do excel on Twitter. One of the examples that I want to provide is Wendy's. If you don't follow Wendy's on Twitter, or if you've never seen what Wendy's does on Twitter, they have a unique on-brand voice on the platform. They tend to be really funny. Whoever's on the other end posting those tweets, they tend to be really funny, and they also tend to share things that are happening around the world, but of course, give it their own spin and give it their own flavor, which followers really appreciate. I've also seen that companies will use this platform to handle their customer service. So, in the past, I've reached out to American Airlines, which I am a loyal consumer of. But anytime that I've had any complaints, I'll go to their Twitter profile, and I'll tweet them, and say, hey, what's happening with my flight, or why is this delayed? And they tend to be really responsive. And it's not just American Airlines. There's a lot of other companies out there that you can reach out to through Twitter to get answers, but to also to get more information and to voice your complaints as well. If you have interesting content or an interesting voice that you would like to share, Twitter would be a great tool for helping you quickly spread that word. Hashtags will also help you boost your post as well. And if you get enough people retweeting you, it's very easy for your content to go viral. Next slide. All right, so usage of Twitter among US adults is actually lower in comparison to other networks. In the US, 22% of adults are using Twitter. Twitter's format is ideal for timely content, meaning the platform continues to be popular for news and customer service, like I just shared. In terms of the gender breakdown, it's 24% men and 21% women. Internationally, the breakdown is 66% men and 34% women. So it's mostly men using Twitter. In terms of age, again, Twitter is popular with those who are a little younger. So 44% of 18 to 24-year-olds are using Twitter. Most Twitter users are outside of the US. So like I mentioned, they have 330 million users, but 260 million of them are international or outside of the US. But if your business is interested in using Twitter, you'll just want to make sure that you have a marketing strategy that's fully developed, that you understand why you're using Twitter, the purpose of using Twitter. Again, in terms of location, urban, it's mostly people who are living in urban locations, and then also mostly college educated, and also those who are a little wealthier as well. Um, uh, so here on this other chart on the right hand side, it says that the leading country is the US. But actually, if you add up all of the other countries, you'll see that most of the users are coming from outside of the US versus the US itself. Let's go ahead and continue to the next slide. All right, so YouTube. All right, YouTube, for those of you that don't know, YouTube is a video sharing platform where people can view, upload, rate, share, and comment on content. It's now owned by Google, making this site a huge hub for news and entertainment. Many businesses on YouTube have a creative, visual, or educational component. The platform is heavily creative in nature, so it's important for you to have a dedicated video editor that's producing content on your behalf. However, your business doesn't need a channel to market on the platform. You could, work with a YouTube blogger or a YouTube influencer, for instance, to market your products through product placement, for instance, or to same thing for services. There's a way that maybe you could be a part of a skit, or you could be a part of somebody could be giving a review on your service, for instance. So there's a lot of things that you can do on YouTube. But if you're looking to create your own content, you want to make sure that it's creative, that it's visual, that it's educational. In terms of some of the things that you could be posting, there's how-tos, there's daily vlogs, meaning that you're just kind of giving us a behind the scenes of what's happening a day in your life. You could also do product reviews. Those are all options. Next slide. All right, so YouTube has widespread use among all US adults, ranking it higher than Facebook actually. In the US, 73% of adults are using the video streaming platform. For those who do use the platform, 38% are reported logging in several times a day. As video content continues to take over on social, establishing your YouTube presence is a priority, just like it is any other channel. And one of the biggest recommendations that I give my clients is having a presence on the big four platforms, which are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, which are the four that we already talked about. And so you want to make sure that you have a presence on each one of these platforms. You may not be ready to be active on all of these platforms or to constantly be engaging with potential customers on these platforms. But you, at the very least, want to secure your usernames on these platforms because of the power of these social networks. So usually when you're looking, when you're doing a search on a search engine for anything, usually one of the first few pages that comes up is either a Facebook page or a Twitter page or a YouTube page or an Instagram page. And so because of that, you want to have a presence on these platforms to increase the likelihood of people being able to find you. Okay. So on to some statistics, 78% of men are using YouTube versus 68% women. In terms of the breakdown of age, 90% of 18 to 24-year-olds are using YouTube, 93% of 25 to 30-year-olds are using YouTube. Unfortunately, this doesn't talk about like the percentage of it's actually my notes don't say it, but the slide does. So 85% of 13 to 17-year-olds are using YouTube. And that's important to note because if you have any 13 to 17-year-olds, and even, those are a little younger. So the statistics don't show us people who are younger than 13, because technically you're supposed to be at least 13 to be using some of these platforms. But anyways, if you have any like younger young adults kind of running around, you'll see that they're aside from TikTok, one of their platforms of choice is YouTube. Again, mostly skews urban, but there's also a lot of users in suburban areas as well. Income is again most those who are a little more wealthy, and then 80% of users are also college educated, but there are some users that have at least some college education or who have either a high school degree or less. So a lot of people are using YouTube. It's pretty popular across the board. Next slide. All right, so some of the platforms that we just talked about are more B2C. And so B2C meaning business to consumer. So if you have a business where you're looking to reach consumers, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter are all going to be great for you. If you have a business that's more B2B, meaning, business to business, you're looking to do business with other businesses, LinkedIn is going to be important for you. So LinkedIn has 260 million monthly users and is the best platform for professional networking. It's a great place to find top talent, position yourself as an industry leader, and to also promote your business. It's designed to be more professional than other social media platforms and is geared towards businesses and professionals. Users are able to create their profiles, which are very similar to resumes, and companies can create pages that showcase their business. Because LinkedIn is a professional platform, it's the best place to post job openings and information about your company culture, any company updates, those sorts of things. You can also join industry-specific LinkedIn groups to ask and answer questions, which can also help you establish brand recognition and that domain expertise or that thought leadership. Which will allow you to bring more users to your company page and website. Similar to Twitter, it's best to have a mix of original and shared content on your LinkedIn page. So you want to commit to creating some polished professional content in relation to your business, but you also want to make sure that you're sharing other people's content as well. Next slide. All right, so LinkedIn's demographics mostly favor those with professional careers, and perhaps it reflects the busy schedules of this more niche audience. Daily usage is less frequent than Facebook and Instagram, with only 9% of users visiting LinkedIn more than once a day, 12% visit daily, and 23% visit several times a week. So, if you are currently using LinkedIn, I'm sure you've noticed that you might message someone and they don't get back to you for a few days or a few hours or whatever else. This is a platform for professionals, which means that they are working during the day. And so, you may have the most success potentially reaching people either after hours or before work hours. In terms of age and gender demographics, as you can see, 24% of users are female, while 29% are male. So, mostly male using this platform, but there is no information on non-binary people. In terms of age, mostly those who are 30 to 49 are using LinkedIn. Most people kind of start using LinkedIn while they're in college for the most part, because they want to advertise and promote themselves and look their best online for potential internships, for instance. In terms of location, again, 33% of users are in urban locations, so it kind of skews urban. In terms of income, 49% of users make $75,000 or more. Again, it's mostly professionals on here. Most people, have full-time jobs or are small business owners, and so that makes sense. And then in terms of education, users on LinkedIn they make up a whopping 51% of college-educated individuals. So that's important to note. Next slide. All right, so Pinterest, another platform that's very visual in nature. It's a visual-oriented platform allowing users to save and display content by pinning digital bulletin boards, which can be organized by category. If you've ever used Pinterest before, you'll see that, once you kind of open the application, there's a lot of just different pictures, a lot of content to to kind of navigate and to engage with. And so, one of the main uses of Pinterest is being able to pin those pictures that you've seen and put them on these digital bulletin boards that you can organize by category. So I use Pinterest. I love Pinterest. And, I'll have a board for home renovations or, rooftop ideas, because I have a rooftop in Philly. And so, you can kind of save pictures under each one of those boards to use them for inspiration later. Very visual, so you'll mostly be posting images or videos here. Pinterest is great for niche businesses, but it may not be for every company. Again, Popular categories tend to be DIY projects, fashion, exercise, beauty, photography, and food. So if you're in any one of those spaces, Pinterest would be great for you. But that's not to say that businesses outside of these categories can't succeed on the platform. It just means that you need to be strategic about the things that you are posting on this platform. Next slide. And I'm going to kind of go through this a little quicker. So in terms of data, again, 42% female in terms of gender. In terms of age, 30 to 49 makes up 35% of the users. Suburban and urban users in these locations. It's more Pinterest is more popular with those who live in urban and suburban areas. 41% of users are making $75,000 and up, meaning that they have money to purchase the things that they are saving on Pinterest. And in terms of education, 38% of Pinterest users are college educated. Next slide. All right, Snapchat. Snapchat is another mobile-only visual social media network that's known for its disappearing content. Users can send videos and photos to each other or post content to their public stories, which disappear after 24 hours. The app has expanded to include chat, messaging, image storage, events, and media content. Now content posted on Snapchat can also be easily saved and uploaded elsewhere. So you can save, the pictures that you create, or the videos and photos that you create on Snapchat. You can save and upload, to your Instagram, for instance. And a lot of people actually do that. Because posts are more temporary on this platform, there's less pressure to create super polished content. And so this would be a great platform for those who maybe want to reach a younger demographic, who really, want to seem a little more human online. Snapchat is going to be great for you. A small business will most likely utilize the platform stories features, because you get to engage with your audience, you get to share behind the scenes, those kind of things. So yeah, stories will be great for you, but of course, if your audience is those who are a little younger, again, Snapchat is going to be great for you. Next slide. And as you can see, the data, supports this. In terms of gender, it's pretty, both men and women are using Snapchat. This doesn't give us much information on non-binary people, which is why, the numbers don't add up to 100%. Again, this mostly younger users are using this platform. So 69% of 13 to 17-year-olds are using it. 62% of 18 to 29-year-olds are using Snapchat. It skews to urban locations again. In terms of income, it's those who are making 30K or less, and that makes sense because it's people who are 13 on these platforms, 13 to 17, 18 to 29, who are still kind of figuring out their careers, who are still in school. So the income makes sense. And in terms of education, it says 22% of high school degree or less, because a lot of them, might still be high school students or in middle school or whatever else. So that also makes sense. Next slide. All right, so TikTok. One of the, a few things that I want to mention about TikTok, it's a relatively new platform where users can create and share short videos. It can be a successful option for businesses, but only if you're actually using it properly. Because TikTok is mostly popular with Generation Z, it can be difficult to strike the right tone so that you can be successful on TikTok. But if you want to create a TikTok account, make sure that you have a keen understanding of your brand and how that translates to TikTok's audience specifically. And if you're not sure what you're doing in terms of TikTok, just look at how other businesses are tackling it before you try it out. But if you already have a TikTok account and you're kind of using it for personal reasons, you'll see that again, people are mostly using it to create short videos, short content. And so you'll see a lot of people either lip syncing or singing or dancing or just talking or providing advice. There are, like business consultants, for instance, that are on there that are kind of giving advice and telling people how to start businesses. And so, you can use TikTok. I think that TikTok is great, especially if you have a lot of short content to share, but you have to know what you're doing. Next slide. All right. So as you can see, 42% of 18 to 24-year-olds are using TikTok. It's also very popular with those who are 13 to 17. So if you want to reach a younger demographic, TikTok is going to be great for you. Again, just like Snapchat and just like some of the other platforms that we've talked about today as well. Next slide. All right, any questions before I move on? And I'm just going to be moving a little faster because I want to make sure that we get to the social media FAQs. But are there any questions that I can help answer about some of these social media platforms that we just talked about? All right, so someone said, can you look at my Instagram and tell me what I'm doing wrong? I can, but that is potentially something that you would have to reach out to me about. It's not something that we'll be able to do during this presentation, unfortunately, because we just don't have time. Can you go into more detail on what stories are on the various platforms and how they can be used to market? All right, so there's stories on Facebook, there's also stories on Snapchat, and there's stories on Instagram as well. Stories is just like temporary short content that you can create. So usually, it'll just be like short videos or a picture. Usually, they're only available for about 24 hours. And so if you want to share maybe something quick with your audience, or if you want to tell them, there's only 12 hours left until this promotion's over, or we're running out of this product very quickly, or if you want to share again behind the scenes, it's temporary content, meaning that it won't live on your actual feed, on your actual profile. And so because of that, because it's temporary and because this content disappears unless you save it, you'll find that most brands kind of use it to engage with customers in a new way, in a new, more engaging, more human way. So this allows brands to be, more themselves, for CEOs and founders to kind of talk to their audience without needing to feel so polished and so perfect, like you will most often see on people's Instagram feeds or on their profiles. You'll see that each one of the pictures is amazing and it looks really great. Usually when you're like looking at someone's story, it's just them kind of showing them what they're doing throughout their day. They might be wearing their glasses like I am, or they may not be looking their best. They might be in sweatpants or whatever else. So it's just temporary content that disappears after 24 hours, which has been, really great in just increasing engagement, because you get to see a less polished side of a lot of these brands. Knowing how it all benefits is great. Thanks. How do I learn how to make use of its advantages in practice? So I'm guessing, you're kind of talking about, okay, I've learned the benefits. I think that's all great. I'm ready to jump in. How do I go about doing that? So, we have some webinars coming up that will go a little more into detail about each one of these platforms and how you can use it. So I would look out for those. And if you have any other questions, if you want more, specific information or like a one-on-one consultation, I would become a client of ours. If you're already a client of ours, let your consultant know that you would like to speak to the marketing consultant, and you'll start working with me. What is Generation Z? Generation Z is the generation after millennials. So it's the generation that's kind of coming up after millennials. So, they are like in their teens right now, like early 20s. Whereas, millennials are a little older now, they're in their 30s already. So it's just the generation after millennials. And you can also find a lot of information on them online. Like if you just look up on Google or any other search engine, like, who is Generation Z, you'll learn all of the different statistics. They're digital natives. That's something that's very important to know. They grew up with technology. And so, they're the ones that are using a lot of these platforms, and they're the ones who are also really great at navigating it as well. It's been suggested to me / us to register an account on all social media platforms so our business name is secure, but that will only actually use one or two of those platforms. Which two would you suggest as the top two to use? So Jeff, we'll talk about this a little later. That's actually one of my frequently asked questions. It really depends on, who your customers are. You can't go wrong with the big four platforms, which are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. But out of those four, maybe Facebook and Instagram would make the most sense. But again, I would need to learn a little bit more about your business, your industry, and who your potential customers are to give you a more educated response and recommendation. Do you think it's necessary to use hashtags consistently for growth on Instagram, or will paid advertisements provide a greater reach? I've seen a lot of users on social media, never use advertising and grow, just from being consistent, posting consistently and having hashtags. And so, I would do both and kind of experiment. And one thing that people don't realize is that marketing is a huge experiment. For the most part, you're testing out a lot of different things to see whether or not they work. And so, I would try both. If you aren't currently on social media, first step would be creating social media platforms. Start, maybe like a 30-day challenge for yourself where you're posting every day that month and you're using hashtags, and look at your engagement and see what it's like. And then also do like 30 days of advertising and see, because you'll get like insights and analytics when you're advertising on these platforms. And so you can see what your engagement is like. But I've seen both. I've seen people grow through advertising, and I've also seen people grow through just posting and hashtagging. And honestly, I would probably recommend, the posting and the hashtagging over the advertising, just because it's, it's easy, and it's also a scrappy way of just getting your content out there without having to pay. A lot of the clients that I work with don't have a bunch of money to invest in advertising. And so what's most important for them in this moment is just getting used to creating content on these platforms. All right, for Pinterest, can I just switch my personal account into a business account? Will my email address be added to the post? No, your email address is not added to the post. The only thing that shows up is your username. So whatever username you create on Pinterest is what will come up. In terms of switching from one to the other, I'm pretty sure that you can do that, and you can just look that up online. Switching from personal to business account on Pinterest, and you should be able to find like a forum or like a how-to guide. I'm pretty positive that you can, but I think that it would be best to have just one account. But if you think that you also want to use Pinterest for personal reasons, I would just have two accounts instead. There's nothing wrong with having two accounts, especially because there's less pressure for you to, to be as polished on your personal account than you would need to be on your business account. So, if you can have both, but if you only want to have the one, then look into, just merging the two. What exactly are hashtags? I'm sure you've seen them. It's just when people use the pound sign or like the number sign, and then they have like a word afterwards. And so, it's essentially you like tagging your content under a word or a phrase. So, if you put like hashtag love, like under your picture, then your picture would come up under like it would come up along with everything else that's been categorized under love on these platforms. When starting out, okay, so there's a lot of questions, and I want to move on with, a lot of these questions will be answered a little later on. And so let's just kind of move on, because I'm sure that, once we get to the social media FAQs, I'll be answering a lot of these. So how to use social media for business is where we're at right now. First off, you want to start with a plan. So if you are new to social media, you've never done it before, the first step is coming up with a plan. And so you'll want to set social media goals and objectives. You'll want to use social media and search engines to research your competition. Like we talked about earlier, you want to conduct a social media audit. So if you've already posted content, if you already have social media platforms, look at what's worked well and what hasn't. You'll want to find inspiration before like launching your social media platforms, ideally, so you can kind of think about the aesthetic and like the look that you want to have online. And it also helps to create a social media calendar. So if you aren't already using a social media calendar, you could create one yourself on Excel, or there's a lot of templates that exist out there. Or you could use one of the social media management platforms like Buffer, Hootsuite, so that you can manage your content and post your content. So in terms of what the slide means, it just means that if you're going to be using social media, you want to make sure that you have a plan in place. You know what you're doing, you know what you're going to be posting, you know who your audience is, all those good things. Next slide. All right, the next tip or suggestion in getting ready for entering social media is deciding which platforms are right for you. So don't just make assumptions. You want to make sure that you're conducting research, looking at data. And when I say, you know, conducting research and looking at data, okay, Leyanis, what do you mean with that? Really, it's just understanding who your customer is. So who is your customer and where are they spending their time online? It's at the beginning, you know, when you're starting a business, you have a lot of assumptions around your business, and you know, the goal is seeking validation for those assumptions that you have. So you might think that your customers are on Instagram, but the only way to actually find out whether or not they're on Instagram is by conducting research. It's by asking those potential customers. It's by you know, going to competitors' profiles and seeing who's following them and seeing if, you know, most of their followers are people who fit your target audience. And also keep in mind that you're going to need to use different social channels to reach different audiences. You know, I don't know what products or services you're offering, or, you know, what kinds of businesses are currently on this webinar. But keep in mind that, you know, if you have different customers, because you're not just going to have one customer that you're looking to reach, you know, maybe your product or service is something that would appeal to, you know, the masses, to a lot of different groups of people. And so in that case, keep in mind that, you know, you may have to use different social media channels for each one of those groups. And you're going to have a different marketing strategy and a marketing plan for each one of those customers. So just keep that in mind. Think about, you know, who your audience is and what your goals are so that you can determine what platforms you should be on. Next slide. All right, knowing your audience, I can't stress this enough. You really have to understand who your audience is when it comes to social media. You'll want to collect data on current customers. If you already have customers, you should be collecting data on them. And of course, you know, there's privacy policies that you have to keep in mind when you're collecting data. But for the most part, you'll want to know who they are, what they want, how they behave, what they can afford. And you know, I talk to a lot of clients and business owners, and they'll tell me, okay, well, my customer is everyone. And the reality is that while your product or service is something that a lot of people will buy or that everyone will buy, the reality is that you can't target everyone, both online and offline, because that is just expensive and it becomes complicated for you to manage. And so it's much easier for you to have, you know, these different personas in mind when you are advertising both online and offline. So, you know, you want to know who these customers are, where they live, how old they are, whether or not they're educated, how much money they're making, what their job titles are, if they have kids, you know, what neighborhoods they live in, like all of those things, right? You know, what schools they've gone to. Like, you want to know as much as you can about your audience. I mean, just think about, you know, your friends and family and all the information that you know about them. If you had to create an ad on your sister or on your best friend, it'd be very easy for you because you have, you know their names, you know where they live, you know all of those things. And that's how informed you have to be on your audience, so that you can really excel and succeed online. Next slide. All right, so excuse me, once you know who your audience is, you're going to want to expand on the audience, meaning that you'll want to, well, first and foremost, you'll want to revisit your social media plan and make sure that you're still in line with that plan, that you're still meeting those goals. But once you've found your audience, now you just want to expand, meaning make that group bigger, meaning being able to reach more people. So if you, you know, have been very successful with stay-at-home moms in Philadelphia, and you know that your product or service is great for stay-at-home moms in Philadelphia, okay, well, expand that audience. Find other stay-at-home moms across the US, or, you know, across urban locations that look very similar to your stay-at-home moms in Philadelphia. And this is, you know, there's a few different options for this. There's lookalike audiences, which we should tap into within our Facebook webinar in the coming months. There's A/B testing that you can do. A/B testing, for those of you that don't know, it's just, testing, changing one thing or having two different advertisements and changing one thing within the advertisement and seeing which one works better. Is it A or is it B? And then geo-targeting, right? Targeting people within certain locations is another option for expanding your audience. So if you know that, Philadelphia stay-at-home moms works for you, okay, well, pick another location and try to target people within that location as well. Next slide. All right, so once you, some of those other steps were more so on some of the tips that I just gave were more so on, what to do before you're like on social media, right? The expanding your audience is once you're kind of already on social media. But the rest of the tips that I'm going to be providing are related to, what to do once you're already using these platforms. So another tip that I can provide is building relationships. Social media allows you to talk to your customers directly. And so because of that, you want to make sure that you're building relationships with your customers. You want to make sure that you're responding to their compliments, their comments, and their questions. And you want to, keep in mind that these relationships are ones that you're going to be building over time. And so, you want to treat them almost like a friendship, right? That you have online, almost like a pen pal or, a friend that you're engaging with on the other side of the world or whatever else. You want to learn things about them little by little. You're going to, post certain things to see what they react to better. You are going to, you're in order to make them loyal fans of your brand, you have to build that trust and form that relationship. And it also helps to work with influencers who will also endorse your product. And that's a really great way to build relationships with your audience and with lookalike audiences. Because they probably already have a relationship that's been cultivated by that influencer, and now by that influencer sharing information about you, that builds that trust a little quicker. Next slide. All right, so sharing compelling visuals whenever you can. This is very important. If you are going to be on social media, you want to make sure that you are looking your best. And so, you want to share high quality photos, videos. In terms of what other things you could be sharing, you could share memes. For those of you that don't know, memes are just like funny visuals, and I'm sure you've seen them. It's usually a picture and it has like some sort of caption within the actual image. That's what a meme is. Infographics, those are graphics that just share some sort of information, whether it's data, whether it's how-tos or a recipe or whatever else. You can share those. Behind the scenes videos, we've talked about those. Stock photos are photos that don't belong to you, that you either pay someone to use, or that you get off of a website that you have permission to use because the photographer has made them available for public use. GIFs are just like tiny videos. So, they're a mix between photos and videos. So it's almost like a moving photo almost. So you want to make sure that you're sharing compelling visuals whenever you can so that you engage your audience. If you're sharing high quality content, things that are creative, educational, inspirational, those sorts of things, you're more likely to engage with your audience. Next slide. All right, focusing on quality over quantity. Do what you can. I know a lot of you are just starting out, but you want to make sure that you're posting great content. And so if you're not at that stage yet, if you're not ready to share blog posts or, to share someone else's blog post or, to share like really great product pictures, then I would wait, until you're ready for that. Or, don't think that you have to post every single day. Maybe you just work on one piece of content like per month. And that's okay. You want to make sure that if you're going to be sharing something, that it's quality, that it's offering value to your potential customers, rather than posting a lot of things that don't look all that great and that don't make you look your best. Also keep in mind that you want to, within your post, you want to be human, you want to be honest. And to answer someone else's question from earlier, you maybe want to start with 1 or 2 social channels because, that tends to be a little more manageable, especially when you're starting off. But you want to make sure that you're securing your usernames on other platforms so that nobody else can take your username once you're ready to start using that platform. Next slide. All right, using the right tools. There's a lot of tools out there, so you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of them, especially if you are, strapped for time. There's a lot that you can do to automate or even simplify your work. There's engagement management tools such as Buffer and Hootsuite, which are also social media management platforms. There's analytics tools like Google Analytics and Brandwatch. There's graphic tools, so if you need to create, a graphic, business cards, a logo, flyers, brochures, those sorts of things. You can go to Canva, VSCO, which I just call Visco, and then PictoChart. And then in terms of content curation, so if you need kind of help brainstorming and ideating what content you should be creating, you can go to BuzzSumo or even Pocket to see what else other people are talking about, and think about how you can kind of spin that to make sense for your business. Next slide. All right, monitoring and responding to our relevant social media conversations. We've talked about this a little bit already, but you want to make sure that you're aware of conversations that are happening. And so, you want to make sure that you have like notifications like set up on your phone, so that if somebody posts something on your social media channels, you can respond whenever it's appropriate. This is called social listening, and it's important for your potential customers to feel like they've been heard. And so in order to do that, you want to make sure that you're listening to those conversations, but you're also responding whenever possible, so that you can, if there's a complaint, for instance, or if someone's saying something negative about you, you can manage that, and you can answer that. Next slide. All right. So in terms of scheduling your content, another tip is scheduling your content to free up time. We kind of talked about this a little in a prior slide where I was talking about tools, and I talked about engagement management tools. Again, engagement management tools or social media management platforms are going to be great for scheduling your content. This is something that you could potentially do after creating your social content calendar. So if you create a social content calendar on like Excel, for instance, you can then, move all of that information onto something online. But essentially, these management tools just allow you to create your social post in advance. It allows you to schedule them, and then they get posted automatically. And so you want to make sure that you're blocking off time to do this. I get a lot of questions about, okay, well, how much time should I devote to social media? How often should I be doing this? Well, at least 1 hour a week. If you can block off an entire day to work on this stuff, great. If not, at least 1 hour a week. You should block off at least that amount of time, so that you have time to schedule content a few weeks out, or just for that week, and really think through like what you want to post on each one of your platforms. Next slide. All right, tracking and refining your performance. This is important. When it comes to marketing, one of like the 5 rules of marketing is making sure that you're measuring everything whenever you can. So first off, think about what metrics matter most to you, right? Like what key performance indicators are important for your business? Is it, the number of visitors to your website? Is it the number of customers, that purchase something from you? Like what is important for you to measure? How would you know whether or not you're successful if you're not measuring something? And so once you start measuring, once you figure out, what metrics matter most to you and what's important to you, then you'll go ahead and actually measure it, right? Put systems in place so that you can, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, see whether things are growing or not. And then also think about what you could be learning from, those measurements that you're taking, from that data that you're gathering. This tracking and refining, tracking your performance will allow you to better understand like what's working and what isn't working. And it'll also allow you to fine tune your efforts and improve your results. So analytics tools are really great for this. Google Analytics, for instance, most social media platforms have analytics tools as well. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at these analytics tools so that you can gain this insight and learn things to improve your business. Next slide. All right, so social media FAQs, and I think that we can also just like open up. You can go back to the first slide, the one before. Sorry. Yeah, so I have about 9 slides, but I want to make sure that I also have time for all of your questions. And again, you'll probably end up asking something that I probably already answered within this presentation. And so, if you ask a question that I've already answered, I'll just go to that slide and share it very quickly. So feel free to put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Right now I'm looking at the chat and then I'll move on to the Q&A. So what are the benefits of converting a business Facebook page from a personal Facebook page? I understand that you can't have friends off a business page. That is correct. You can't have friends. You would have followers on that business page. But really, one of the most important things about a Facebook business page, or really any business page, is that the analytics that come with it, as well as the customization. So if you look at business pages, they look very different from personal pages on Facebook. And so, you get to be a little more creative with your business page. You also can advertise within a business page, and that's not necessarily something that you can do with a personal page. And then, you get the analytics that comes with it as well, which all of those three reasons make it something that's very important and appealing as a business owner. How often should one post on IG and Facebook? So ideally, you would be posting 1 to 4 times a day. I'll be honest with you. 1 to 4 times a day. And the 1 to 4, it's a range because you want to see how people engage with your content. So, if you post 4 a day, which is a lot, it's very taxing on your end as a business owner. Maybe people who are looking at it are like, oh my God, like that's a lot of content, from this person. They're kind of spamming me a little bit. I don't like it. And so you can kind of see what your engagement looks like from posting 4 times a day. And so that's why I say 1 to 4 times a day, at least once, at most 4 times. You don't want to spam your customers or your viewers, your followers. But you also want to make sure that you're active. So at least once a day. If you can't do once a day, just pick a consistency. And I'm actually going to ask, I think I have a slide on this. Yeah, so can you go forward a little bit? I'll tell you when to stop. Keep going. Keep going. There, go back. Go back. Go back. Yeah, so how often should I be posting? When you should be posting, it depends on your customers. So you can if you already have social media platforms, you can look at your analytics and your insights. But the best times to post are going to be before work, lunchtime, after work, and before bed. In terms of how often, ideally 1 to 4 times a day. But my recommendations to you are choosing a frequency that works for you. So, 1 to 4 times a day might just be a lot. And so what's most important is picking a frequency that you can actually commit to. So if it's once a week, once a day, once a month, whatever it is, doesn't matter, as long as you are consistent and you're keeping to that. So, if you're going to do once a month, then pick a day a month and make sure that every day that, on the 15th of every month, that you're posting something so that people can look out for it. And that's usually what you'll see with YouTube channels, for instance. Usually like the blogger will say, new video every Friday. And so subscribers can go to this person's channel every Friday and expect to see a new video, because consistency is key when it comes to social media. Can you use the same materials? On photos on each of the platforms? I have a slide on this as well. So, sorry, I'm kind of looking through the slide deck. Go forward one, Divya. Yeah, thank you. So is it okay to post the same content on each platform? The short answer is no. But when you're starting out, I would say that it's okay, because you're just getting started. You maybe don't have a lot of content. And so it's okay for you to post the exact same thing on each one of those platforms, but ideally you wouldn't be doing so. You wouldn't post the exact same picture and the exact same caption, because your audience is going to be different on each one of these platforms. And so because of that, because your audience is different, you're going to want to tailor that message or that visual to each one of those customers, right? Let's say that most of the people following you on Instagram are younger women, and then on Facebook it's older women. Why would you post a picture of a younger woman, or you posted a picture of a younger woman on Instagram because you wanted your audience to be more receptive to that image on Instagram, and then you go ahead and post that on Facebook, and people probably aren't going to be as receptive, and they probably won't be as attracted to that image as if if you posted maybe a picture of an older woman on Facebook, and that's who most of your audience is, then they'd probably be more receptive to that. So people follow your brand on different platforms for different reasons. So you want to make sure that you know who's following you on each one of those platforms. Your audience is going to be different on each platform. My recommendation to you is repurposing the same content for different platforms. So, you might use the same caption, but a different image. You might use a different caption, but the same image. It really depends. It also helps to create a content calendar and to understand who your customers are, who your audience is on each one of those platforms. All right, so a few questions on the Q&A. As a brand new startup business, would you suggest the business open a social media account somewhere right away or wait for a period of time? I have a slide on this. Divya, can you go back a few? It says there's like a picture of like a rocket ship. Go back, that one. There we go. So when should a business launch their social media? So, the sweet spot, in my opinion, is 1 to 3 months before launching your business. So even before you register your business, you can already start using social media. If your business is already launched, then I would say that, you should start whenever you're actually ready to be consistent. So, if you've already started, if you've already registered your business, if you've already launched, then, start using it whenever you feel like you can actually commit to engaging customers on social media, because it can be a lot, especially when you're just starting off and have a small team. But if you haven't launched your business, and if you haven't launched your business, then 1 to 3 months before launching and registering your business is the sweet spot. Recommendations, the more time the better, so that you have time to build a community around your brand, and you can start testing different marketing strategies even before you launch your product or service, so that there's already some buzz around your product or service. But you also want to check the availability and secure your usernames as soon as possible. So, as soon as you know what you want to name the business, or before you register your business under a name, you want to make sure that there are usernames available for, whatever you want to call yourself online. That's very important. I've seen a lot of clients run into issues in the past because, they register the business under one thing and then the usernames aren't available. And then they're like, well, Leyanis, should I change the name of my business? Or whatever else. It happens very often. And so in order to not have to be in that situation, make sure that you're checking the availability of these usernames and securing them as soon as possible. How can you find reliable videographers / video editors to create and maintain high quality content? An option is going to organizations that cater to creative. So one of the ones that comes to mind is Rec Philly. I actually offer office hours through Rec Philly to some of their creatives. I think that they're really great, but there's other organizations in Philly that cater to arts. And so you can start by reaching out to them and seeing if they have any videographers that they work with or that they can recommend. There's also, there's groups on Facebook, for instance, for like videographers. So you can just put like videographers Philadelphia and see what comes up. And then just post, whatever you're in need of, and somebody will reach out to you through email or, through whatever you say within the message about how you want to be contacted. There's also existing platforms such as Yelp. There's also Thumbtack. I use Thumbtack a lot in terms of finding service professionals and also getting better understandings on how much things cost. So you can go on Thumbtack. It has people's their hourly rates on there, and so based on that information, you have a better understanding of like how much it will cost you to hire this person. And then they usually have some information on their business, pictures, all of those great things, so you can kind of make a more educated decision. Unfortunately, we don't offer videography services, but there's a lot of mediums out there for finding someone. How would you compare posting on Facebook versus posting on Twitter in terms of reach? So Divya, can you go back a slide? Thank you. So I think this question is more so like, which platform should my brand be present on? And again, this depends on your business / industry, and it also depends on your customer. In terms of reach, I mean, I think it depends, and it also depends on the content, right? Like it depends on what you're posting about. So I mentioned that Twitter is more about like customer service. It's also about sharing news. So, what are you sharing on these platforms? Are you sharing news? Are you sharing just an image? Are you sharing a poll? Like, what are you sharing, right? Because your engagement is going to look different depending on what it is that you're looking to share, and also your business or industry and who your customer is. Your audience on each one of these platforms is going to be different. And so because of that, if you're going to be using both Facebook and Twitter, those posts are probably going to look different, which we've already discussed. So it really depends on the content. But depending on the content, I mean, I've seen like things go viral on Twitter, and I've also seen things go viral on Facebook. But oftentimes the things that go viral on Facebook are more visual in nature. It's usually a video that is maybe funny or educational, or something that kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit. On Twitter, it might just be like like gossip, or just breaking news. So it really depends. But in terms of what platforms you should be on, you'll want to pick channels where your audience is already on. And you want to pick platforms that are also match your brand. We talked about having a presence on the big 4 platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, for the most amount of exposure. But again, if you're a small business, you want to pick 1 or 2 to focus on, but make sure that you're securing usernames on the other ones, so that you don't run into any branding issues in the future. Do media platforms allow the administrator to build the account without making it live? No. So yes and no. So once you create your profile, it is live, but no one would really know that it exists unless you start sharing it and unless you start posting it. So in a way, you are kind of able to like tinker with the platforms without anyone seeing it. But the only way, the only thing that I've heard of where like you can kind of work on something and people not see it is like your website. Once you like create a social media platform, it is searchable, but people won't know that you exist until you start engaging and posting and advertising. So, there's tons of dormant accounts out there. There's tons of platforms, that I haven't even heard of yet, because I haven't been made aware of their business yet. When starting out using social media, is it best to start with one or trying to tackle all? I just answered that. So, all right. So I think I've answered everyone's questions, as quickly as I could. You are going to get a copy of this presentation. I know that it was, pretty thorough, but I wanted to make sure that you had all of the information that you needed. There's a lot of words on the slide, which, I'm usually not a fan of. But again, I wanted to make sure that you had all of the information that you needed at your disposal, so that if any questions come up, you have those answers already ready to go. Because I know a lot of you are just getting started. In terms of next steps, I can, I guess, go ahead and share my screen because I know Divya stopped. So let me just share my screen really quickly, and then present. All right, so in terms of next steps, how to become first and foremost, you can become a client or sit down with a consultant. If you're not already a client of ours, go to our website, temple.edu/SBDC, select meet with a consultant, which is one of the first boxes that you'll see on the page. Then you will be prompted to create an account. And then once you create your account, it's gonna ask you which center you wanna work with. If you're in our region, meaning you're in Philadelphia County, Montgomery County, Bucks County, you can work with us. And if you're in need of marketing help, you're most likely going to be working with me. If you're not in our region, then you'll have to work, with the Small Business Development Center that's closest to you, unfortunately. But all of them are great. All of them usually have like marketing consultants on staff, and we're all, pretty great. We all kind of share content and information. And depending on who you're working with, oftentimes if you're kind of asking something that's outside of their wheelhouse, they can bring in other consultants into the conversation. So you can say, hey, Leyanis, I saw a presentation that she was giving. I thought that she was pretty great. Can we bring her into the conversation? And that's also something that we can do. But if you are within our region, select Temple SBDC as your center of choice, and you'll most likely be working with me. Another thing that I want to make you aware of is our Center of Excellence for Digital Transformation. This is something that's fairly new. We launched these centers of excellence in 2020, and the mission of them is to empower small businesses to transform their business, to also empower small business owners through training and tools, to assist them in configuring or integrating or enhancing existing systems that they already have. So if you have a website and you need support with that, we can help. If you're in need of support with marketing, for instance, you can watch out for some of our training and some of the tools that we're going to make available to you. But it just allows you to engage with our center, and these centers of excellence are also available statewide. And so this is an opportunity for you to work with the Temple Small Business Development Center even if you don't live in Philadelphia County, Bucks County, Montgomery County. So some of the things that we can help with are website, helping you with your e-commerce, enhancing that, implementing or modifying scheduling systems, helping you kind of figure out remote work, and we can also just help give you just overall consultations as well. Look out for some of our other events. Within the deck, you'll have this link to the events page. So if you're interested, if you love the presentation today, let us know. If you feel like I didn't touch on certain things after you've looked at the deck, let us know. Right now we're kind of brainstorming on different things that we can make available to our clients. And we want this information to be as practical as possible, as informational, as educational as possible. So if we're doing a great job, give us a thumbs up, let us know. But if we aren't touching some of the points that you wanted us to hit on, also make us aware of that as well, and we'll probably be able to come up with a webinar to meet your needs, as long as there's other people that kind of feel the same way. But these are some of the events that we have coming up. You can go to our website, and there is a link to some of our upcoming workshops. Actually, can I go back? Yeah. So on our website, this is kind of what it looks like. Under the Meet with a Consultant block, it says register for a workshop. That's what you would be clicking on to see all of the events that we have coming up. And then lastly, because we were talking about social media today, make sure that you're supporting us back. We love you guys. We're here to support you. So make sure that you're also following us, liking us, tagging us, checking in, reviewing us on social media, and telling other people about us. We say that we're the best kept secret, and we don't want to be the best kept secret for small business owners. We want people to know about us. We want to be able to reach more business owners so that we can help them not only start, but also thrive and survive, especially during these tough times. So engage with us online, but then also tell other people about us offline. Are there any other questions before we end this?
Also, I've pasted a link to the survey. Make sure that you fill it. It is required by our funders, the Small Business Administration, so that we can continue to provide free cost webinars. Thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat in the Q&A.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all of the kudos and all of the, just thanks that you're providing. Make sure that you fill out that survey. We do look at it. And so, make sure that you fill that out. That's where you'll be giving us either your thumbs up or, kind of share some comments and suggestions. So make sure that you're doing that. Somebody's asking about whether or not we can help with developing a business plan. That is something that we can support on. But, we do have this 80-20 rule, which means that the client would be doing most of the work, and we would be providing 20% of the work, which means that we're supporting, advising, asking questions, and providing templates and those sorts of things. So we can help. Reach out to us, become a client if you're not already a client. And look out for some of our future sessions. Thanks, guys.